Chaos is one of the coolest characters we've gotten in NT until now. From his kit, to his design, to honestly everything about him is just so amazing. Gotta give it to the devs, they're cooking with this one. And as a plus to all of that, he also has insane amount of damage if you actually know how to play him, and there will be a few things that you need to know about that, so for that I decided to make this guide. In this guide I will cover his Esper abilities, his arcs, console build, team comps and rotations, awakenings, and pros and cons. Welcome guys, I'm Akira, and let's dive right into it. As usual, we will start with his Esper abilities. I will first show you his entire kit and then explain to you how it works, or at the same time kinda. So the very first thing you need to know about his kit is that he builds up crime, and crime is basically shown by this bar right here, this scythe, okay? And you can charge up to 100 crime. And it charges when he basically does anything besides breathing, so unless you're in your old state, but we'll get there eventually. This is his 5 basic attack string. It ends on this last hit where he dashes forward. Then he has an enhanced basic attack, which is this one. Keep in mind that this enhanced basic attack is something you will need to really use a lot. So when you reach 1000 crime, so you just attack until you reach 100 crime on the scythe down there. You can hold your basic attack to do the enhanced basic attack, but like on a higher level, okay? So this is his main source of damage besides his Remora bomb, as you can see. And it does that back and forth and then a final slice with the scythe, okay? That's something that you will need to understand and basically optimize, because that's a big part of his kit. The next thing that he has obviously is his redirect skill, and his redirect skill applies warrant to at least 2 enemies, or maximum 2 enemies I mean, for the duration of 15 seconds, which will increase your attack by 20% or 30% if you have your passive to unlock. And this redirect skill is just a tiny choom. As you can see, he has warrant applied by the, you can check by the claws on him, okay? Afterwards, you have his ult, which puts him in the Chaos Dread state, which basically makes your crime charge up a lot faster, as you can see down there. And you have to aim to get at least 2 of these attacks when you're in your ult state, okay? 2 of your heavies, so as you can see, I managed to do so. And this is basically Chaos Wall Kit. He's quite simple compared to other characters that we have, but these rotations are specific, I say. For the skill upgrade order and more in-depth specifics of what they do, you have his basic attack, and as you already know, because I've shown you like a second ago, his attack basically builds up crime, and when crime is at its max, which is 1k, you can do the enhanced basic attack Final Verdict. Afterwards, you have his redirect skill, which applies warrant on up to 2 enemies for 15 seconds, which increases your damage dealt by 20% when you attack enemies that have warrant on them, and that will be increased to 30% if you upgrade your passive too. Then you have his ultimate, which inflicts warrant as well on all the enemies within range, and you enter the Dread Echo state, which is basically that state where he starts having flames on his body, and it increases his crime rapidly, even if you are not doing anything, and basically your basic attacks and everything else that you do will increase crime way quicker. This state lasts for 12 seconds. Then you have his support skill, which is just an instance of Lakshana damage, and here comes a big part of his kit, okay? His passive one is Remora enhancement that will deal Lakshana damage equal to 800% of his attack when Remora ends. So basically you apply Remora to a target, and when the duration of Remora ends, you will deal a nuke of 800% of his attack. But that's not all. Remora base duration is 5 seconds. However, if you have Hathor, and good news, if you don't have her, we will have a selector on 1.2 for free, and you can pick her there, or if you've seen my mistakes video on NTE, you can do the same as I did, which is saving up the warp pieces and purchasing Hathor from the shop. But anyway, let's move on. Each second beyond the base 5 seconds duration of Remora will increase the total damage by 45% up to 300%. This means that this 800% can become 1.1k% of the attack. It might not sound like a lot, 800 to 1.1k, but trust me, it makes a difference. And then his passive too, as I've mentioned like 2 times in this video already, is just an increase on the warrant damage from 20 to 30%. His life skills are cool if you like fishing. Honestly, I think I've fished like 5 times in this game. And his second life skill is honestly super amazing, because you can place basically 2 teleports in anywhere on the world. You just created your own teleport point. For the upgrade order of the skills, you want to upgrade first your passive 1, then your basic, then your passive 2, then your skill and your ultimate. You want to upgrade them at the same time, and finally your support skill. Now let's move on to his desired arcs, okay? And Chaos is a bit of a special character because his arc has been literally fine-tuned for him, so the difference between having his signature and not having it will be quite significant compared to most of the other characters. If you pulled for Chaos, I recommend you pull for his signature as well. Honestly, just do what I did. Go to Hunter Exchange Shop, exchange your funds for the keys, do whatever you need to get this arc. I got it on max PT, that's unfortunate, but at least I have it here, and it really makes the difference, and we'll get into it now. Because his arc gives you base attack, obviously, and then it gives crit rate. Not only that, and this is the part where the arc really shines, his effect, Golden Fleece, will increase your Lakshana damage by 20%, just for having it equipped, okay? And then it increases your crit damage by 40% for 20 seconds when you cast your redirect skill or your ultimate, and it resets the duration if you trigger this ability again. This is basically a 60% damage increase on Chaos, and I mean, it's nearly doubling his damage, so you can understand why this arc is so much needed in comparison to other characters. However, if you really don't have this arc and you have no means to pull for it, there are a few other options, and one of them is the Battle Pass arc Fluff of Ferocity. If you don't have the Battle Pass, you can try using the free S-Class arc Chameleon Society, and that will be his main free-to-play option. And if you don't have Chameleon Society, which I'll be honest, there's no way you don't in this point on the game, because it's free, you can use the A-Class arc A Time Will Come. Let's move on to his console build. For his console build, obviously you want to use the Street Boxer set because it gives Lakshana damage and increases your crit chance, and when you trigger Remora or Stain, it increases the bonus to 14% for 20 seconds, so I think it's a pretty obvious choice on the set. The stats that you want to look for on it are main attributes, Lakshana damage bonus, and on the sub attributes, you want at least double crit, okay? If you can get double crit with damage percent or attack percent, even better, but double crit is the must, okay? And that's the only reason I'm not changing this Street Boxer one to a legendary one with Lakshana, because as you can see, I only have single crit ones, and it's really important that you have double crits, okay? They will make the difference. For his modules, once again, you want to aim for double crit, damage percent, and attack percent, okay? And it's really important that you use this layout or a similar one, because for each type 3 module equipped, Chaos will have an increase of 16% on his crit damage. And when I get to the rotations, etc., you will understand that the crit damage is a big part of his kit, okay? And so is crit rate, but we'll get there eventually. I'll explain to you how to achieve perfect crit rate nearly. These are my current modules, so you can copy or look at the stats if you want to. And for the substats, the order in which you want them will be crit rate, crit damage, damage percent, attack percent, and flat attack. Anything else is fodder. You can use them if you don't have a perfect module, because it's still early in the game and it's quite hard to have a fully perfect module. Aim for at least double crit, it's really important. His recommended endgame stats at level 80 are 20,000 HP, 2,000 attack, 64 to 74% crit rate before the buffs and anything else from passives and Athor's Remora increase, etc. 64 to 74 before all that. At least 160% crit damage, 15% universal damage, and 67.5 Lakshana damage. For his team comps and rotations, there are two main teams basically that you can run. The first one is the Remora Bomb, which is this team and you're looking at right here. However, instead of Fadia, Aniel will be better. I'm only using Fadia because I'm using Aniel on my Lacrimosa team, okay? But Aniel will be better than Fadia in this team, assuming you have Aniel at A6. If you don't have Aniel, then you can use Fadia or Aurelia. They're worse, but at least you can proc Stain, which is the important part, okay? Aniel is better because she will give you more attack and crit damage buffs. The other option is, instead of having Stain, you can do a charge team by having, for example, Jiuyan, okay? This team will perform worse in case you don't have Awakenings, because he will need the Stain damage increase to actually make his damage more noticeable. However, if you pulled for dupes of Chaos, you could probably run this team and it might be better. For the purpose of the video, I'm gonna run Aniel on this team, since it's the most common one and it's the better option as well. The rotations are on the screen right now, but I will try to do a little voiceover while I attempt them at the same time. You basically want to start with Athor, okay? And you want to put a redirect skill on cooldown. Then you want to move to the main character, trigger Remora, ultimate with main character, move to Aniel, okay? Ultimate with Aniel, and use your redirect skill as well. Trigger Stain with Chaos, apply Warrant, ultimate, and now you want to aim to get 2 heavy attacks in this. So let's try to get 2 heavies during the duration of this ultimate. Oh my days. That was not good. We got 1. And we got 2. After you finish the rotation on Chaos, you want to move to Aethor again, ultimate with Aethor. and then use her feathers. My Aether is not built, so she's kind of useless, okay? Ignore that part. If your Aether is not built, you can skip that. But just as mine, I'm only using Aether for that Hemora duration increase. And after that part with Aether, where you basically trigger our ultimate and use a redirect skill, you just do everything all over again, starting from Chaos, okay? Almond doesn't stop moving around, and is usually my designated target for the rotations, but I want to show you what it would like, for example, on this floor of Terminal Station. It's the last floor, floor 12, okay? So, since this is a bit different, and you are playing against time and you don't start with your Esper cycles charged, I always start with Chaos, building up the cycle, okay? Because I will want to trigger Stain. And this is mainly because I don't have Aether built. After I... Okay, let this guy fly away. But let me speak while I do this. After I build the cycle, I'm gonna trigger Stain with him, okay? And I will ult with Aniel. I will use my E. I will change to the main character, redirect skill and ultimate. And then I will move to Chaos again. Apply Warrant, ultimate, and instantly do my first enhanced heavy, okay? Boom, boom. Dodge that, and keep building for the second heavy. Boom, boom. And as you can, did you see that nuke? 220k. That's basically what you want to aim for. And yeah, as you can see, we got 3 heavies, and we can just redo it all over again. Apply Stain. And I don't have enough charge efficiency for this yet, because my Aniel is not built at all. We can probably trigger Stain with Aniel now, okay? So let's do so. Ultimate with Aniel. Redirect skill, trigger Stain, go to main character, EQ, trigger Hemora. Apply Warrant. And this dude loves flying away. It's the annoying part about him as well. Ultimate. And now you already know, we want to aim for 2 enhanced. Watch this, first one, 53k. Soon you will get the Hemora bomb applied to him as well. And he decided to fly away again. That's unlucky, but he will get the Hemora bomb now. Or, oh, he already got it, I'm dumb, I didn't even notice. And this is actually a bad run, because I've done it in my... You can check like my other Chaos video, beating endgame, where I've done this in like 1 minute and 20 seconds or something. But this time he decided to fly away for quite a bit of time. And honestly, it's part of the game. It takes some runs at the end game, because there's these things with the mobs where sometimes they fly away for too long, etc. But anyway, that's the gist of it. And if you don't get as unlucky as I did on this run, which I doubt you will, since this guy was constantly in the air, you will be able to complete it in like 1 minute, easily. For his charge team, the rotations are similar, but instead of using the main character to trigger Hemora, you want to use the main character to trigger charge by triggering Blossom when you change to Jiu Yan, okay? And then basically just keep nearly 100% ult uptime on Chaos. Another very important tip is that you need to be careful, because if you refresh Hemora before you get the nuke damage, you will just be delaying that damage, okay? And you don't want that. You want to make use of that as much as possible, so avoid applying Hemora when you already applied Hemora before the first Hemora duration ends. Now let's move on to his awakenings. I'm going to do a quick rundown and explanation of his awakenings, and then I will tell you the order in which you can maximize his damage. So his A1 basically gives you an additional 40% crime when you attack enemies with Warrant applied on them. Very simple awakening. His A2, once again, it's a very simple awakening. It just ignores 20% of the target's defense when you attack enemies with Warrant. His A3 is once again super simple. It increases your crit damage by 30% for 20 seconds when you cast your ultimate, and it resets the duration when you trigger it again. And as you can see by now, that's why the charge team might perform slightly better if you have awakenings, since you will get increase in crit damage basically permanent. Then you have his A4, which is more for AoE floors, since it transfers the Warrant to a nearby unmarked enemy when you defeat the previous enemy that had Warrant on him. And you have his A5, where if you only have one enemy with Warrant on the field, it increases your damage to that target by 20% further. And his A6, that immediately gets crime to his cap of 1k when you cast his ultimate. They're all very simple awakenings, and honestly, I think it's quite easy to understand what they do and the order in which you should upgrade them. But anyway, this is what I would do, and it would be A6, A1, A2, A5, A3, and lastly A4. A5 and A3 can be interchanged, so if you want as 20% extra damage dealt to targets, you can do A5 first. If you want the crit damage, you can do A3. Do not forget that he also has the resonance effects like any other character, and they're quite mid, especially the first one. First one basically just gets extra level to your skills when you get the bonus for 3 awakenings, and the bonus for 6 awakenings is significantly better, where it basically reduces the Lakshana resistance of enemies applied with Warrant by 10%. This one is okay. There are characters with better resonance effects than Chaos, definitely, so if you pull for the awakenings, it's for their effects and not for the resonance ones. Moving on to his pros and cons now, and let's start with his pros as usual. He has a strong burst window during his ultimate, which is Retribution, and with the Dread Echo state, where it rapidly increases his crime generation and applies Warrant to every single enemy, his burst window is really big, and it makes his ultimate buff window deal very high damage. His Remora enhancement, especially when you have Hathor with him, deals significantly more damage, as you've seen in my rotations, like 200k plus damage, and he's not even level 80 or fully built yet. His crime builds up simply by attacking, and you can inflict Warrant by his redirect skill or ultimate, which makes it feel really natural, since DPS is meant for that, just attacked without a lot of mechanics around him and rotations that are very weirdly specific. Is very simple in that aspect, and he can place custom teleport points on the map, gives you fishing buffs, and he can take his mask on and off. That's definitely the most important point. As for his cons, the biggest one is that currently there's not a lot of good free-to-play arc options. As I've told you previously in this video, the difference between his signature and not signature is quite significant, and it's difficult for him to extend Remora enhancement duration on his own. You would need to have basically perfect rotations where you trigger Remora by swapping Chaos to main character, and then you attack with Chaos, and then nearly at the end you go to main character again and use instant cycle and trigger Remora again with Chaos to extend the duration. So it's really hard, and that can basically be mitigated by having Hathor. And that has been my Chaos guide video, guys. I hope this video has helped you understand better how to play Chaos, how to get those big nuke damage numbers that you see some people have, and if so, then don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time, guys. Bye bye.